Hello, good evening everybody. I'm just going to angle my camera because I've got Mummy Cat on my lap, in case you're wondering what I'm doing. Good evening everyone. It is Top Tip Tuesday and this is Charlotte from Enriching Environments. Let me just check my camera and move my plant. Oh, Mummy Cat's now sitting on the table where my camera stand is. So, good evening and welcome to Top Tip Tuesday. So today we're doing a slightly different Top Tip Tuesday, slightly different Instagram Live, because I've had a lot of requests about setting up a Montessori Playgroup and getting a couple of families together, and there's families who know each other here in Dubai, and they want to know how do they set up a Montessori Playgroup. Some of the parents have got some knowledge of Montessori and some don't have any knowledge at all, but what they do know, and so as their homes are arranged in a Montessori way to varying degrees. So I've put together a course of how to set up a Montessori Playgroup at home, and this course is based on my own experiences of when I started Enriching Environments 2 years ago. It was our first session, I believe was October, Diana or Carla will know, I believe it was October the 26th, maybe the 27th, 2 years ago, so almost to the day. And how Enriching Environments came about was that, to cut a long story short, we ended up having story time from the library here in Dubai at my house because the library was closed for refurbishment or for relocation. And so story time on a Sunday morning came to my house. I hosted it and the storyteller came. And when people came into my house, because it's set up in a Montessori way, there was sort of more and more people saying, this is a bit different, this is a bit strange, what's going on here? Your house seems really different. Hasn't got any children things in it, no babyish or childish things in it, but everything is set up in a way that's accessible to children. So what's going on here? So I started gradually explaining about Montessori, and it turns out that quite a few people from the story time were really interested in a different way of raising their children, an alternative way of raising their children. And of course, hi Nona, good evening. And of course, if you've been following me for a while, you know that my vision is to take Montessori from being an alternative method of education to be regarded as a mainstream way of life. So when these parents were coming into my home and seeing that it was so different, but actually so normal for my children, and I might add at the time Harry was just over one, and Olivia would have been then 3.5. Just under 3.5. So this was spring of 2018 when people first started coming for story time. And then a couple of months passed and we had story time on and off at my house. And then it was only in the autumn when we were talking about how we couldn't find a suitable nursery. We couldn't find what we wanted in terms of, we knew that we wanted a community for our children, but we couldn't find anything. We looked at lots of nurseries and we hadn't found anything that we were happy with at all. And particularly as a Montessori educator, then I can see it. I was then able to look at it from the perspective of a Montessori educator and a parent. And I was sure there wasn't anything that fitted the bill. Turns out there was. Monicole and Olivia only started going there, and all the children from Enriching Environments actually started going there at a later stage. But at the time, we didn't know about Monicole. So what we decided to do, myself and these intrepid families, is to set up our own Montessori Playgroup. Enriching Environments was the name that we gave it, but I'd already bought the domain name enrichingenvironments.com in September 2017, and I had been working on this vision of bringing Montessori as a mainstream approach. From literally when Olivia was 12 weeks old, I just thought, I set up a vision board because I wanted to write a book about my experiences as a Montessori parent and educator and crossing that over. And that sort of then morphed into Enriching Environments just after Harry was born. Actually, I had a lot of creativity again, like I did after Olivia. And so Enriching Environments, the idea, the website and what have you was born. And then the group was born in 2018, as I say. So what I did to create this group is we set up the logistics. Sorry, there's the cat again. We worked out the logistics of who was going to host the different families, and we had a range of age groups. So Olivia, my daughter, was the eldest, as I said, she was 3.5 at the time, and then the other children were all what we would call piccolini, between a year and 18 months, just over 18 months. Oh, my cat's got really sharp claws, and he's pawing me really vigorously. And so it was great because you had one older child who could lead the others, and it was good that it was Olivia who was the older child because she'd been in a Montessori environment all of her life. Not that that matters or not, but it was just great for us learning that. As I said in my post the other day, you know, I had lots of experience from teaching children. Hi, Tony Maria. But I had no experience on training adults on Montessori other than my assistants in the classroom. So teaching other parents who were literally starting from scratch on Montessori, this was really, really interesting for me. Obviously they were my friends as well, and so, you know, then trying to teach your friends things as well, that was a different dimension. But it was so incredible because I think I said to them at the time, they placed so much trust in me. They just really allowed me to guide them. And so what we did is we started in the home environments, everyone's home environments. And so as I say, what we decided to do, and this is what I would recommend for your play groups, I would recommend that you set up your group with maybe 3 other families or 4 other families at a maximum. For your first group, you don't want more than 5 children. 5 children, that means including your own. It's great if you've got siblings, that's fine, different ages. You don't want too big an age group because this isn't a Montessori classroom. This is still going to be in people's homes. And there's dynamics that about parents looking after other people's children when their own children are in the house. There's dynamics there that need to be considered as well, but I talk about that in the course. So you don't want more than 5 children, basically. And one of those actually could be a babe in arms, for example. So with one of the mummies from original enriching environments, she had her daughter last year. So for some of the enriching environments, when she felt ready to host again after having her second child, so there was a babe in arms that she was feeding, plus having the older children as well. So you don't need to have all the same age group. Having one older child or one younger child, like one baby, that's fine as well. The ideal time to start this actually is wherever you are. You can start this if you've got 4 newborns. You can start this if you've got 4 crawling babies. You can start this if you've got 4 piccolinis and 1 preschooler. You know, it doesn't matter where you start. The perfect time is the time that you've come to this. You know, there's not any ideal time or not ideal time. The sooner the better, of course. You don't really want to be trying to come to this age 6 because that would be completely pointless because you've missed out so much of the other stuff. But if you wanted to start a play group, and also this is important to mention, this is not with an objective of being an educational institution. This is not an alternative to school. We're not going to be teaching any formal education in this playgroup at all. And I think that's really important to note. This isn't anything about pressure. You're not going to be teaching them phonics. You're not going to be teaching them... No, you're not going to be teaching anything directly. You don't want to do any direct teaching in the first 3 years of life. You're not going to be testing their colours or, you know, any of that. Everything is indirect. Everything is all in the richness of the language that you give, the activities that you're offering, the art that you're offering, the books that you're offering, the songs, the poems, the contact with nature if you've got a terrace, and then you can do some gardening, you know, the food preparation together, the baking. It's the shared experience and the experience within the environment that's important. This is not formal education, and yeah, there's nothing taught formally. So I just want that to be really, really clear. This isn't about kind of giving your child a head start, or, you know, I hate those gross expressions anyway, but you know what I mean. This is not about anything other than serving the needs of your child and other children whose parents you have an affinity with, other families that you feel a connection with. I went off track then, as I always do. What was I going to say? So yes, we start with basically on the course, and this is how I started with the ladies that we began with. I started with the philosophy, sort of explaining. They saw my home, and I explained why everything was in the way that it was. That was the first, and then the second thing is that I help them prepare their environments. Hi, Emma. So I help them prepare their environments. And depending on how much you know about Montessori, Nana, I know you know quite a bit already, it all starts with the physical environment. And Montessori is not all about the physical environment, but you have to start with the physical environment, because the physical environment and how you prepare your home or how you prepare the classroom if you're in a school, that is crucial, because that guides the child and that guides you as the adult on how to behave and on how to behave and how to interact and how to communicate with your child. Once you have the environment set up in a way that facilitates autonomy, that fosters respect, that fosters a harmonious community, then your child or the other children actually show you what you need to know. They actually guide you and they become your teachers. So it's really crucial that we start with the physical environment prepared in such a way. And I'm not obviously going to go through the whole course now, because we're going to be here for it's an 8-hour course, so we're going to be here for 8 hours if I go through everything. But what I will say is the simple things that you know about Montessori is that everything is their height. It's simple, it's ordered, it's accessible, and everything is at the child's height. And then they can, if they're a piccolini, they're going to want to spray and wipe the windows. They're going to want to mop. They're going to want to sweep. They're going to want to use a cloth to clean the table. Those type of things, really, really easy things. That's how we set up the environment. And we set it up with materials that either you've got in your home already, or we're going to buy things that are... we're going to buy basically the absolute minimum. This isn't about buying a lot of expensive toys. If you have that availability financially, that's great. But this is not what Montessori is about. Montessori is about simplicity. It's about having an ordered space that's appealing and fulfills children's needs. So I'm not going to tell you to then go and spend like 2,000 dirham on materials. That's not at all what this is about. This is really about seeing what you have, and I'd much rather that you look in your kitchen cupboards and you find what it is that you need from what you already have, because then that brings an element of sustainability in it, and it shows our child, about reusing things and not just buying endlessly because we have the financial means. So that's sort of a separate indirect message that we're sending, if we can actually reuse what we have. But if we can't, we're going to buy as little as possible so as to provide the enriching environment that we want our children and these other children to have. So that's the first thing. We set up the physical environment, the physical space. And the philosophy, that's what we're covering in week 1. In week 2 of the course, we are going to look at what the child is actually going to do in the prepared environment. So you've got up your practical life shelf, you've got your art, you've got your easel, and the other things that we're going to talk about. What are they actually going to do? What is it going to look like, your time period? I, for example, would suggest that depending on the age of the children, it's going to be between 2 and 3 hours. If you've got very young babies, then it's going to need to be, if they're newborns, then it's probably going to be an hour and a half, and most of them are going to be asleep for most of that time. But if you're getting to piccolini to 2.5-year-olds, you can do 3 hours. We did 9 until 12, and we just had a really early lunch. I mean, I'll come to importance of meal times later, but we would have like lunch at 11:30. We'd have 9 o'clock, half an hour for people to settle in, then there'd be a snack, then be, another hour and a half of what we call work, or play, whatever you want to call it, and then we'd have an early lunch, and the parents would come, and it turns out mainly the mums, but the parents would collect at 12 o'clock. So that's week 2 of the course. It's like what they actually going to be doing. What have I said here? Yeah, the rhythm. What actually is going to be the rhythm of that morning, roughly speaking. I'm not going to say that you need to do this, this, and this in the routine. I'm just going to suggest a flow which is going to work based on my experience in the classroom, and based on my experience with Olivia and Harry, my own children, and based on my experience of enriching environments and this group that we set up in several homes with the dynamics of different children. So that's week 2. The first section of it is what the child will do in the environment, and then the second part of week 2's course, week 2's session, is showing the parents, showing the adults how they are going to offer the work to the children, how they are going to, we call it, in Montessori we call it presenting work, but I'm going to say offering just so that you know what I mean. We're going to show, we've got we've got these great shelves and we've got everything set up, which is going to really serve the child. How do we actually offer it to them? How do we entice them? How do we show them how to, I don't know, clean a window? How do we show a child who isn't yet, who's only just walking and not talking? How do we show a child who isn't talking and doesn't necessarily understand everything, hasn't got a full range of vocabulary and a full range of comprehension of language? Or if you're in a multilingual setting, how do you show a child who doesn't speak your language or doesn't understand your language? How do you show them how to wash a window, how to wipe a table? Those are the things we're going to be doing in the second half of the second session. So showing how you offer the work, how you present the work to the child, showing them basically what to do with what you've offered on the shelf. Week 3. So we're going to move slightly away from the environment itself. We're going to move on to the adult. So the adult in the environment. How to interact, how we speak in a Montessori environment. What are the... I don't really like saying don't do this and don't do that, because it's very non-Montessori and it's not really my style anyway. But I'm going to give you a really clear list of do's and don'ts, a really clear list of this is what you might want to say because it's your reflex, because that's how you were taught or that's what you hear everyone else saying, but this is what you can say instead. And it's things like offering choices. It's things like managing conflict. It's things like offering a child to go to the bathroom in a respectful way rather than and like changing a nappy in a respectful way, things like that. What the interaction is like, what is the expectation of the adult's behavior within the environment. And then the second part of week 3, and it's a big section actually, respectful communication, a really big section. So it's the quality of the language that we give, and it's the respect that we pay to children in the words that we choose, in the phrases that we choose when we're speaking to them. And the second part of week 3 is the dynamics of the adults in the environment. What we did initially, we just had one adult in the environment, and then when we had more children, we had 2 adults in the environment. What's really important is that you don't have too many adults. If you have 5 children, you don't want 5 parents as well, either mums or dads as well. If you've got 5 children, depending on how many newborns and little ones there are that are going to need feeding, for example, you want 2 adults, perhaps one of them obviously being the feeding mummy. If you have too many adults, then it just becomes an adult-dominated space. It's not child-led, and the child will come and ask an adult for assistance rather than trying themselves or attempting anything themselves. They will immediately ask for help. And actually, for any of you who've looked around a Montessori classroom, you'll notice that there are very, very few adults and seemingly a lot of children, but it's not pandemonium. It's actually really, really calm because the children end up then helping each other. So depending on the age ranges, depending on the dynamic of your group and depending on the personalities you have, but you do not want 5 children and 5 mummies, or 4 children and 4 mummies or daddies. You just want to keep as few parents as possible so that the needs of the children are met, basically, in that environment. If you have 3 children whose characters, whose personalities complement each other, you might not need even a second adult, depending on what stage they are, I don't know, bathroom independence, or depending if they're all in a similar age and they have similar-ish interests and similar-ish temperaments, you might not need a second adult, for example. But I'm going to be able to guide you through kind of what's right for you, depending on what your makeup of your group is and the various reasons of what different scenarios that you choose. So that's week 3. It's all about the adult's role and how the adult speaks to the child. And then week 4 is focusing more on the details of when you're in the environment. So for example, really the shared experiences like meal times, the importance of food preparation and meal times, how you're going to be doing things like snack, how you're going to be doing things like mealtime. What we did, for example, is we asked everyone to bring fruit or nuts, we didn't have any allergies, a contribution for a snack, and then the children would prepare the snack together, and we would have sometimes a salad, we would sometimes have a fruit salad, we would sometimes have, I don't know, cheese and biscuits and walnuts, for example, and a bit of fruit, but the children would prepare the snack, and that is hugely important in lots of educational practice, but particularly Montessori, that shared experience of food. And if you watched my Insta Live last week about talking about being at the weaning chair and the weaning table, I talked about this, how it's a shared experience, how we can give a love of food and a love of that communal experience, eating experience, through meal times and through snack times. And that really starts with the food preparation, children being involved in every single stage of the food preparation, from selecting the food from the farm or the supermarket or the fridge to washing it and preparing it. And we go through that full cycle. And actually, with a piccolini, with a 1 to 3 year old, you know, preparing snack is at least half an hour, if maybe even 45 minutes. That takes a lot of time, in a good way. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of concentration. They build a huge amount of fine motor skills, hand-eye coordination, concentration skills, preparing snack. They'll learn to use a knife. I'm going to show you on the course how to help your child, how to instruct your child, how to offer a knife to your child, how to show them how to chop safely, all of those things, and what type of knives you can offer at different ages to keep them safe. And so you can have trust in them as well. So that's week 4. So it's, the shared experiences like mealtime and snack. We'll talk about that. And then we'll talk about troubleshooting. So, for example, if there is something like sharing, one parent wants to make the children share, and that's not a Montessori value. So we'll talk about how we do sharing, how we don't do sharing in Montessori. We're going to talk about if a child has a tantrum, if a child has a crisis, if there's a hitting incident, anything like that. I've experienced all of these things, which is why I want to pass on this knowledge, how we're dealing with things like that. Because obviously it's a shared group and there's little children, and you want to make sure that everybody is on the same page, you know, when you're in this type of shared experience, you're in each other's homes, you want to really make sure that you're on the same page. You know how you're communicating with the parents, you know how you're communicating. And then things like we would do a very basic report at the end of the session. We did 2 sessions per week. Always it's got to be in the morning. You decide the length, and then I'm going to go into the nuts and bolts of all of that, the logistics of it, just working out who does what, how you share the work. I don't want to say workload because it sounds negative, but how you share the joy of this, you know, how can you do it so one person isn't doing more preparation than the other, things like that. How you support each other, you know, with questions, how you support each other in terms of when you go and buy something, you know, just things like we had a WhatsApp group, and whenever we went, one of us went to IKEA or anywhere where we were going to get materials, or the creative shop, we would also, just things like we would also always message each other, you know, I'm going to Creative Minds in half an hour, does anyone need anything? Just simple things like that really helped us build what we needed without having to dash all over the city to get every single little thing that we needed. So that's the course. 4 weeks, and each week is going to be a 2-hour virtual call, so Zoom call. There's going to be the lectures itself, as it were, and then there'll be, obviously as we go through, we can ask questions. You can ask questions, or we can save them all to the end, depending on the group and how everyone wants to do it. You know, we can do however you all of you want to do it. I'm going to be running this week, so it's 4 weeks, and it'll be once a week. And the reason for having it once a week rather than all intensively in one go is that it's going to give you a chance to do the preparation between each week. So you're going to go and live and breathe this. I'm going to tell you how to prepare your environment in the first session. So you're going to have a week then to either take everything out your cupboards and have a good look and prepare what you have. And you're going to have time as well, if you need to go and buy anything, you're going to be able to do that. And then we'll come back in the next week, and then we'll have something else to work on, you know, in terms of homework and other resources to find and things like that. And obviously I'm going to be able to share a lot of my experience, but also there's so much great work and resources online of contacts and colleagues, of former colleagues of mine that I can share as well. So we're looking at, just looking at my diary, I'm thinking the week of the 15th, commencing 15th of November, 22nd of November, 29th of November, and week commencing 6th of December. Those are the 4 weeks. And it is up to you and whatever group you are creating what day of the week, which morning you want to do this in. It's going to be a morning session. Thursdays I can't do, but Sunday to Wednesday I can do. So if you're going to be doing this with a group of friends, then you can choose which day you'd like to do. Otherwise, as we get closer to the time, if we don't have a consensus, I'll choose a day. But if you're doing it with a group, then definitely let me know which is going to be your preferred day of the week to do it. And then if we've got a consensus, then we can work to that one, no problem. What else? I think that's everything. 4 weeks, 2 hours on Zoom. And also it's worth saying, if the social distancing restrictions are eased, then we can do it in either my home or one of the other host homes. The only reason I'm doing it virtually is so that I'll be able to do it from my home and you can see my home, but obviously I can't have you here because of the social distancing restrictions. If in 2 weeks, by the time we start, then those aren't around, then the restrictions have been lifted, then great, we can do, say, 1 week in my home and 1 week in another host home. That's no problem at all. But we'll keep it virtually for the moment to follow the guidelines, and then we'll see how that moves as we get closer to the time. So I'm going to put all the details on a post in the next couple of days, and then you can just email sayhello@enrichingenvironments.com to book your spot, and then I can send you the preparation form and we can get all the work done in advance, so that the time we have together we can really spend so I can get to know you in advance, so that the time we have together we can really focus on learning. I know what your needs are, so we can really hone that learning for when we're actually with each other, rather than spending an hour at the beginning getting to know you, if you see what I mean. So thank you so much for joining me this evening. If you have any questions, do shout right now, or you can message me on Instagram, or say hello@enrichingenvironments.com, my website, enrichingenvironments.com. And I don't think I've got anything else to add. I feel really excited to share all of this with you, actually, and I feel excited for every course, but this one in particular because I guess it's the 2-year anniversary. And hi Saskia, because it's the 2-year anniversary, and because it's something that's just so special to me starting this, and the knowledge we all gain together, all of these families. And then it's so beautiful that now all of the families are at Monaco, which is an authentic Montessori in Uskema and Jumeirah. It's just incredible. It was such an incredible experience. And once my children are a bit more grown up and obviously able to do more things on their own, I would love to resume these play groups and have more Piccolini and preschoolers to my home. But that's not where I am right now. I'm jumping ahead to the future. So thank you so much for joining me this evening. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon on Instagram or on live next week. Look, my second cat has joined there. Do message me if you have any questions, and I'll speak to you soon. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.